Hey, Shauna, have you ever had regret or resentment because you never did something that you really wanted to do in this life?
Well, that is a big topic of discussion in this upcoming podcast of regrets and maybe how to avoid having regrets or resentment for not taking an opportunity when it's presented to you.
Or making an opportunity presented to you?
Yeah, making it happen. Absolutely.
And our guest today is Miss Julie Rose, who is a nomad and she has her own boutique travel company. She's a travel advisor at Boutique Travel Advisors, and she's here to help us make it happen.
And before we dive in, let's give a shout out to Valerie Barker. Thanks for being a listener. Now let's dive in.
Welcome to the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, where we dive deep into pressing health and fitness issues facing aging women. I'm Alli Kerr.
And I'm Shawna Kaminski. And together we'll bring candid conversations, expert advice, and personal stories that will inspire and empower you on your own wellness journey.
Julie, so good to have you back on the podcast.
It's so good to see you and be back. I'm really excited to talk about Peru and the adventure we just had and foreshadow some exciting stuff coming up.
And travel can change people. It certainly has for you. You're a nomad turned travel advisor. So give us a little history on how that happened. So people that haven't met Julie before know a little bit about your history and how travel has changed your world.
Yeah. So, I've been kind of sharing my story online for, I don't know, around 8 years now. I had a little bit of a dramatic thing that happened. I lost my job. I lost, what I thought was kind of my identity. And I decided to take a whirlwind trip to Europe. The trip, the gap year that so many of us jumped right into the workforce. We didn't do that fun thing that we were supposed to do after we graduated college. So I'm like, okay, I'm 32 or something. I'm going to do it now. And I was back, I had all my stuff in one backpack, living small, making all of these decisions on my own. I felt so capable. I felt so powerful. And sure, I made mistakes. And I, had a couple hostels, and I was doing my own laundry, and I was experiencing a different way to live. But then I had so much joy and so much discovery, and I met so many amazing people. It really changed my outlook, so that when I got back to the US and I got back to my normal life, I kind of looked around at all my things and just the clutter and the, chasing the corporate ladder and all of that. I'm like, what am I doing? So I, fast forward, I got my finances on track and I sold my house. I sold everything I owned and I became a nomad. And then a little bit after that, I quit my remote corporate job because I really just wanted to focus my my mental energy, my time, my attention on what I was experiencing and seeing in the world, because there was so much to see, and I didn't want to wait until magical retirement, to which who knows if it's ever going to come, right? Or if we're even going to be healthy when that does come, to see the world and to just experience all that this beautiful place has to offer. And along the way, of course, I'm telling my stories, I'm taking my videos, and I'm putting it all out there on the internet. Just so excited to share my newfound outlook, that I collected a following, and I collected, people interested in what I was doing and my point of view. And along the way, the feedback I started getting was, oh, I want to travel with you. Take me with you. Like, how do I replicate this? I want to be you when I grow up. Things like that. So I thought, well, wait a second, yes, I quit my job, and yes, I'm kind of doing my own thing, but there's an opportunity here to offer something to these people looking for these experiences from my direct experience. And so I sought out a travel agency that I had been acquainted with in the past. I got connected with them. We thought about what could I do and how could I participate and how could I leverage the credibility in in the travel industry to offer these people, my followers, something else, something that they were looking for. And I think that there was a little bit of it that was a little bit selfish also, because as I became nomadic, I kind of discovered like, man, it's hard to keep friendships alive. It's hard to maintain connectivity. People are always in and out of my life. I'm on the move. They go back home. What if I brought people to me and then we could do something that I want to do and that they want to do together and have more of a bonding experience when you're with people kind of in a very concentrated way. So it was a little bit twofold of offering something that they wanted, but then also getting something in return that I wanted. And I decided that I would offer group trips, and I did my first group trip 3 years ago, and now I don't know, I've done maybe 10, welcoming more than 100 people over the years, and a lot of them return travelers. So my return rate is pretty high. I once people are in the system, they can't get enough sometimes. So yeah, it's been really, really rewarding, and I get to see these places and experience things through their eyes that maybe I experienced at the beginning of my international travel journey, but I'm watching others kind of see these things and have these moments, and it's just so touching to me because I remember how fulfilling it was at the beginning, and now it's fulfilling all over again.
Yeah, I mean, really, Peru was, from my perspective, so much more than what I had bargained for. And I felt like with 25 women, that's how many we were, including our guides, that it just went exceptionally well. Is this your experience with group travel, generally speaking?
I was holding my breath a little bit the whole time because sometimes things go wrong. Oh, I say actually, like a lot of the time, it's just travel, period. There's something bound to go wrong. But everything really, I mean, sure, we did have like a few people delayed baggage, delayed flights. But as far as what was happening in our group, everything really came together so swimmingly. And you'd think with that many moving parts, it wouldn't. But I mean, travel snafus aside, I think the trip was just amazing and really exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, and maybe it was just the group of people, this adventurous nature that people came to Peru with, and the fact that do you think the fact that we kind of gelled because we met with travelers every month prior to our travel, that had some aspect in the success of the trip because we kind of felt like we knew each other?
Yes, I think all the coaching that we did in the months leading up to the trip, all the opportunities to connect, the WhatsApp group that got very lively, everybody helping each other, giving each other advice, packing, mosquito repellent, all sorts of things. People already felt like a sense of connectivity. I think getting to Peru, people felt prepared, I think, with what was to come. And I think the thing that I really admired, that I really appreciated, is that everybody came in with this like wide-eyed, they just really embraced the experience. I was kind of expecting, and believe me, I was actually a little bit myself. Oh my gosh, it's raining in the Amazon and this sucks and I'm all wet and I'm drenched. But like, people had just the biggest smiles on their face. They just got a kick out of it. I know we're going to go into like details later, but I was just so impressed to see all of these ladies just really like take the bull by the horns and just embrace the experience, even if it was difficult, even if it wasn't, perfect weather. But for me, I just, that made my heart burst.
And what's really cool is that sometimes a group trip gives the security for someone to step a little bit further out of their comfort zone in these mini sabbaticals that you offer, because let's face it, not everybody is going to be a nomad that they're willing to pack up their life, but they can get a little taste of what you are offering. And that's what Peru was, because many of our guests were first time travelers leaving the United States. Is that your usual?
It's a little bit of everything. I had a traveler on my Egypt trip last year. She had never been out of the country. She had never been out of the US. And like Egypt is a pretty hardcore first destination, like what about Ireland, or what about, something like that are really, there are some countries that are really easy for first time travelers, but she trusted me and she came to Egypt and she had an amazing time. We all had an amazing time. We were all, very surprised. It was very unexpected how wonderful Egypt was, I think, for all of us. So I have that. And then I also have people coming to me and saying, I've been almost everywhere, but now I want to go. Like, what other cool places are you going to, like, what other off the beaten path trips are you going to offer? So I kind of see the full spectrum.
And Julie, what about now? I know you're doing these group trips like what we did in Peru. And then don't you put trips together for people that are wanting to maybe put together a family trip or some type of special vacation that you might not go on the trip, but you'll actually plan the trip? Is that how that works?
Yeah, my business has become sort of half and half, where half is my groups that I host, and then the other half is just kind of people coming to me, hey, we want to go to Morocco, hey, we want to go to New Zealand, hey, we want to go to Spain. And I help them plan their trips with their dates, with their budget, with the different specifications and considerations that they have for themselves and their family, which is really fun because my groups are really kind of a designated times of year that work for most travelers, but the rest of my clientele is traveling, when it works for them. And so it really kind of keeps me busy all year round.
We just never know where travel is going to take us. And you've got this new career now based on travel. I'm sure when you started this nomad journey, that was not what you were thinking as far as where you were headed.
No, no, it wasn't. But I think life is like that. I think when we have an opportunity that comes across our path and it aligns, then like take it. And believe me, like when I was working in the corporate world, I was making a lot of money and I did have a, kind of a high profile job, but I kind of dreaded when my email would ding, and I dreaded kind of, my mind would be active thinking about like, the things I had to do, and I would get called for emergencies and all sorts of things. And it was a lot. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, but I'm beholden to this employer. I don't get to own my time. So the difference is now I'm doing something that I want to do. So the trips that I pick are places that I want to go to, that I would want to host. And it's not somebody telling me you got to go do this trip or you got to take on this client. I get to decide how my time is spent and where my energy and my mental like awareness is pointed. And I think that's kind of my whole ethos is freedom. Freedom of freedom of movement, freedom of how you spend your time and where you put your energy.
what would you say the feedback from either people that you've planned their family trips for or people that you've done group trips with? Is there a common theme in terms of the big benefits that these people have experienced, or is there a myriad of benefits? What are some of the themes that you're hearing of doing? As I said, most people are not going to become lifetime travelers, but hopefully some people will incorporate some kind of travel within their lifetime. So is there a common theme that you often hear?
I mean, I think it depends because not everybody digs deep. And you have to sort of be the person who is going to dig deep when you're traveling, because you could just go shopping and you could just, go from the car to the resort to the beach and that's it. But if you're going to dig deep, then you're going to have more of those experiences with locals where you're actually learning, where you're actually transforming, where you're changing your mindset, you're doing the things, or yeah, I mean, I think not everybody necessarily does that when they go on vacation, but some people travel. Do you vacation or do you travel? I think, and sure, everybody's approach is different, and some destinations kind of allow for one or the other. But I know that when I seek out trips for my groups, I make sure that we're having authentic experiences, we're having immersive experiences, we're testing ourselves just a bit, at least, if not more, because I think everybody sort of needs to see. Maybe we need to get out of our bubbles. Maybe we need to see a different way of life. Maybe we need to challenge some of our ideology. Maybe we need to see how the other side lives. Maybe we need to have some of these conversations where we, get to hear about history and culture firsthand. Those are the types of trips that I choose when I host groups, because I think those experiences are the ones that really open our eyes to what's outside our bubble, what's outside our day-to-day life in North America. And that's really important, I think, to just being a well-rounded human with a accurate worldview.
And I love that. And I certainly felt that that was the case on the trip to Peru, that we got to challenge ourselves and we definitely got to dip our toes in the culture, just learn about the culture. And of course, it being a women's group, that was made it also a really special time that we were getting away from not just our North America or our life or our work, but also our families. Ladies were going out and stepping out on their own. Some didn't know anybody, and then some knew maybe one or two people on the trip. And so that was really a great experience. I love how you put your trip, and I've only done this one trip so far. However, we're going to be doing another one soon, but I love how you put the trip together so that we weren't just laying in a resort on the beach somewhere. Because we can all go do that, but this was so much more than that. So thank you from me for making it so much more and making it a travel experience, not just a vacation.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying about travel can literally be a choose your own adventure in terms of, am I going to lay on the beach or am I going to hike up Rainbow Mountain, or really have some kind of physical challenge or mental challenge. And I think that was one of the reasons why our group was so bonded, is because I feel like when you have a collective experience, it's very bonding. And we had two very challenging hikes that we had prepared for the 9 months before, which I think is maybe unique to that trip, that, because we did the health coaching throughout for the 9 months. But I feel like that was really bonding. And I really loved that women were willing to step out of their comfort zone, maybe because of the safety of the group. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's one of the big selling points of travel in a group is you have like kind of the safety in numbers, you have the socialization in numbers, you have the logistical support. There's sort of the economy of scale of being in a group, because if you have a private driver, what is that going to cost you? But if there's 12 or 16 of us in one van, then our costs are going to be shared. So there's all sorts of pluses to traveling in a group. You have your built-in friends, you have the logistical support, and then you just have, instead of one person that sticks out, you're in a collective where you're now like together one. And I think that also, like you said, Shawna, that contributes to these shared experiences and shared moments and like transformative, like bonding experiences that I think one of the ladies said we're trauma bonded during the hike, just with the challenging hike that we did. But yeah, I mean, like all of these accomplishes there's so much more, I don't know what the right word is. Like the fact that you shared, you're doing it together, they're maybe even more rewarding and just special.
It's something we'll all share always. Like we always have that trip and we always have those memories that are shared with just that group of ladies, just that in just that moment of time.
And we did a panel discussion with some of our travelers. And one of the points that Kathy brought up that I think is so important for our listeners to consider is that so many people have an idea of something they want to do someday, and someday isn't actually on the calendar. So I was so impressed with our Peru travelers, and I encourage all our listeners, whether it's travel or whatever hard thing that you have in mind, that you put a date on it, because someday just never happens. And maybe that was motivation for yourself when you started travel. Did you have a someday on the calendar and then all of a sudden it's like, well, I guess today's the day? How did that work for you? And do you still have some days on the calendar, or are you're actively putting things on this date?
I don't know. I think there's just all of these things that I want to do. And maybe in the past, I questioned whether or not they would ever get done, or I would ever achieve them, or they would ever happen. But now I just have this like knowing that like I'm going to achieve everything that I want to do. Anything that I've had on my list, like I could go back to my notebook from when I was like 16 and it'll say like, these are all the things, like I want to live in a foreign country. I want to learn Spanish. Well, I've done a lot of the things that I thought then that I was going to do. And I keep on adding to that list, and I'm going to keep checking them off the list. So I think just I'm at this point where I know that I will go and do everything that I want to do. It's just a matter of sort of like figuring it out where it fits in my life and my calendar and my priorities. But I know I'm going to do it. And I think like there's probably a lesson in that is the first part is knowing that you're going to do it and then actually taking a little bit of action towards it. Maybe that's where people are getting stuck, where you can't just have it as, and I think like this is where some of those gurus get it wrong, like with the manifestation or if it's meant to be, it'll be. But like, no, it's not just this mindset. No, you actually have to be intentional and act and move in that direction. And sure, yes, you need to believe in abundance and you need to not have like a scarcity mindset, but that involves also taking action and making moves. And I think one easy move to make is you can sign up for a trip like this because your logistics are taken care of. Everything's packaged for you. All you literally need to do is input some information into a form and send it in. And then you show up on day one and you have this group of women that you've already gotten to know with the calls, with the WhatsApp, with all the connections that we've done. You already have the ice has been broken. And then, you get in the transport vehicle and it takes you to all the places that we're going and you just get to enjoy. You get to talk, you get to look out the window, you get to take your pictures, and you don't have to think about navigating or translating or any of that stuff. And then at the end of the day, you have this like amazing body of memories, and then you feel like you have taken a step towards one of the things on your list.
Yeah, I think
that builds confidence. Yeah, I think that's one. Yeah, the reason that now you don't think about it and you're going to do all these things is you now have the confidence that you're going to do these things because you have a track record. And saying yes the first time is what got the ball rolling. And so that's what's fun watching the ladies that went on this trip, especially those that have never done anything like this. Just seeing their confidence. And now it's like, now they know that they can tackle this next thing that they thought was so big and overwhelming before. And now they can do it because they feel like they can do it. They feel like they have the power now. They have the confidence. And that's one of the amazing lessons of doing anything outside of our comfort zone, but especially travel.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is that was the big message that I got. And that was what was so rewarding for myself personally, was to see how some of the ladies that had really never done any kind of travel, never done really much in the way of hiking or any of the big challenging things that we did on this trip, and just to see them blossom and their confidence, and then the talk now of like what's next. And they have more of a can-do attitude rather than, oh, I would like to do that, or someday I want to do that. Now they're opening up their calendars and saying, hey, not when am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? With whom am I going to do this? What is the date? They're putting specifics in. And I think that for anybody that maybe hasn't stepped out of their comfort zone, whether it's with travel or anything, the first step is actually the hardest, but it's really just a series of small steps. So if you're listening right now and thinking, oh man, I'd really like to do that, but I just can't imagine myself, just take that first step. Look at maybe one of your trips or one of our upcoming trips that we'll talk about. And maybe consider group travel. And then, that will kind of get the ball rolling with some other big challenges.
Yeah, it's very much sort of like a step by step. You don't have to be like 0 to 60, sell your house and become a nomad, but there's all these other opportunities to change your life, or at least get some inspiration or motivation, or shake things up, give yourself a new lease on life without, totally blowing everything up. And I think like some of these ladies came away with that like, I feel really excited about what's next. And that's exactly what travel should do. It should revitalize you. It should like open your eyes and, make you feel like powerful and confident and courageous. And like, I'm kind of thriving on that 24/7. So it's hard for me to remember what I used to be like, but, I did start there, and like, the sky's the limit.
Well, what was so exciting for me is Kim, who's in her 60s, she had said, I sort of thought, well, now that I'm in my 60s, things are going to start to go downhill. But she reflected and said, man, after this trip, after doing the Inca Trail, I'm going to be calling upon the hard lessons I learned on that hike, because it was one of the hardest things I've ever done aside from natural childbirth, but I did it. And that I'm really excited about looking forward, that there are more adventures to come, which I think is such a good lesson for, especially for our listeners who might be thinking, well, I'm not going to travel in my 60s or 70s. That just seems like beyond me, but this is the time. Now is the time.
Now is the time, because I mean, there's so many things in our life we can't control. We can control like how we invest in our health, and but what we can't control is just the effects of, you know, life, external events, political events, all sorts of stuff. Like, if there's something that you want to do not wait for it, because you can't predict like what's going to happen in your life or your close family members, or even what is going to happen with the state of the world. So, you know, this whole like later, put it off, one day, someday, it's probably going to be never, if that's your attitude.
And that builds a sense of resentment, I feel like, with like if it's like, oh, I wish I could do this, or I want to do this, or I've never gotten to do this. We start building up this resentment within us, where if we just take action and start doing the thing, even if it's just a small step, it's like, do I want confidence, or do I want resentment and regret of what I didn't do? And I think that's also one of the questions for us to ask ourselves. If there's something that you feel like you're missing out on in life, how can you take a step toward getting that, versus all the want tos, wishes, regrets, resentments that come with not doing the thing and never doing the thing and never getting around to it? Like, how miserable is that?
And I think one sort of comical, I encourage people to listen to the panel discussion with our guests that came. One of our guests had a ongoing battle with her husband. You're not going. I am going. You're not going. And she did come. And I think the point I'm trying to make is sometimes people are waiting for either their partner, their sister, their kids. They're waiting on someone else to make something happen. And then that also, as you said, Alli, builds resentment that like, wow, I'm always doing what they want to do, but never get to my bucket list. And so one of our guests did not know a soul. She was a podcast listener, and kudos to her. She was, it was great because we felt like we knew each other before we actually met, because I think that is a real bonus that we do all the calls and the prep before. But she just said, I'm not waiting for someone else, because she found community where, and I'm sure this is what you find as a nomad as well. You said you've met wonderful people. Your connections are a little bit shorter, maybe because everybody moves on in different directions. But in our case, we had those 9 days together, and she never felt alone, and she basically came alone. So I'm encouraging anyone to, whatever that big thing you want to do is, if you take the step out to do it, you're likely going to find someone along the way that's going to be supportive and hold your hand with you or take that step with you. But you won't if you just don't take the step.
I encourage anyone listening to this, if you want to log onto my website and read some of the testimonials, it comes direct from the participants, but that's part of the feedback that I get a lot is, I mean, a lot of the travelers joining my trips, they're completely solo. They don't even know me. They've just signed up completely sight unseen, didn't know anybody. And now they're coming back, and now they're returning to come on more trips, because they found such a sense of community with the other participants, with the other travelers. And I have seen like friendships blossom before my eyes. I see like the jokes and the pranks and the giggles and the bonding and the hugs, and just, it just like touches my heart. It really does. And like, this was also unexpected when I first started my trips, and people were like, "Oh, I want to hang out with you. You look really fun." But it's not about me. People are not coming for me. They're coming for what has been created of all of us put together, of the recipe of all of these people of a like mind, wanting to get the full experience, wanting to immerse themselves, wanting to learn, and everyone's sort of in the same boat, coming as a more or less solo traveler, that they want to get to know each other. They want to chat to each other. They want to share a bit about themselves and learn about others. And I just love it so much. I never could have expected it, honestly, but I get a lot of joy out of it.
And I want to share two numbers, number 128 and 86. So 128 is the panel that we just had on, and you can hear some of those testimonials that Julie is talking about from this recent trip from our panel ladies. That's the episode number. And then episode 86 is when we interviewed you, Julie, the first time on the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast. So episode 86, where if you want to learn more about Julie, that's a good one to check out. And just, that was a great, inspiring episode. And that's where this Peru trip was born. In that episode, we decided, because one of the lessons that we were talking about in that episode, I don't know if y'all remember, but we were talking about not just talking about doing stuff and waiting until, thinking about it, but actually, not wait until we retire. We said, let's put this into action, what we're preaching here on this podcast, and let's plan a trip. And so that's how this trip came to be.
Yeah.
You took your own medicine.
It's a hard pill to swallow. And we're like, wow, we're really doing this, Alli. And then we looked at each other when we saw each other in the airport. It's like, we're doing this, Alli. So it was really, so thank you for the inspiration and for partnering with us, because, yeah, what a great opportunity for us to travel together. Alli and I live worlds apart, in Canada and the US. So, we're looking forward to seeing each other more. And we have Iceland on the calendar for September of 2027. So we're going to put that link in the show notes. Julie, if you had a wish for our listeners, what would it be?
Well, I would say be true to yourself. Look inside your heart and ask yourself, what is it longing for? And if you think that any of this that you've heard, the discovery of different places, the memories and the bonding with people of a like mind versus waiting for someone to travel with you that might never do it, or just saying like, someday, why not, instead of someday, why not say tomorrow? Or September 2027. Just really, just as an aside, I think we as women and people of the world, we tend to get on autopilot, that we do what we're supposed to do what's expected of us, and we don't always look at, what do I want? What really is gonna light me up? Let me look inside my heart, instead of just kind of following the script or following the footsteps of what I'm being told to do. Ask yourself what you want really versus what people are telling you to want, and take action towards it.
And my wish is that we see and meet some of our listeners that we haven't seen or met yet in Iceland in September of 2027, because of this podcast and because of interviewing Julie. This whole thing has been born. We did the Peru, and now Peru has led to another trip. So now we have this next trip, and we'll have a link below for those that want to find out more about Iceland. So yeah, that's my wish. I want to see y'all there. If you're listening, join us.
Yeah, and we don't have to wait until September 2027 to meet, because Alli and I do health coaching along the way, so that by the time that trip comes up, you'll be feeling your healthiest self. And my wish is to absolutely prioritize yourself for a change, because women are infamous for putting everybody else's needs in front of their own. And it is not selfish for self-care, and this is a mini sabbatical. It's not hey, I'm throwing it all away, I'm becoming a nomad. It's, a very short amount of your time that actually can result in life-changing results in terms of your attitude, your outlook on life, on your health. So whether it's this trip, which we would love for you to come on, or some other big thing, put yourself first and put a date on the calendar. Make it happen.
Thanks for listening. You'll find me, Alli, on Instagram at Alli Kerr Fitness.
And you'll find me, Shawna, on Instagram at Shawna Kaminski. Feel free to pop us a DM with questions and or feedback. If you're enjoying the Girls Talk Healthy Aging podcast, please subscribe and share it with other health-minded women. Ratings and reviews are also much appreciated and help us get our message out to a larger audience.
Until next time, be healthy and be happy.